Hey, MBG family.
Hello, everyone. We're going to give everybody a little second, give everyone a little time to jump on before we get started. Tonight, we got a hot topic tonight. We're going to be talking about communication.
Come and talk to me. I feel like I should be part of Jodeci. That's what it reminds me of.
No.
So, hey, MVG family, if you are jumping on with us, please say hi to us so we know you're in the building. If you're jumping on, please say hi and also share the video so that people can jump on. We're going to give it time to build up for our MVG family, as we usually come on Mondays, but we had to change the date as our son jammed his finger playing basketball, as teenagers do. So we had to go and see about his little fractured finger. And so we had to jump on today, which is cool. You know, he's good. So thank you all those who reached out to us to make sure everything was okay with us. He's actually good.
So like we said, tonight's topic is going to be a hot topic tonight. We're going to be talking about communication.
Yeah.
We're going to be hearing communication from different angles.
Yeah.
Of the marriage, whether it concerning sex, whether it concerning infidelity, whether it concerning just simply communicating, just knowing how to communicate, different ways to communicate with your spouse, because I know different people have different languages on how to communicate. So we're going to give everybody about 2 more minutes for everybody to log on. If you're just not logging on and joining on with us, if you would, give us a thumbs up, give us a hi, say hello. Hello.
Hey, Michelle from North Carolina. Yes. Hey, Shelly. Hey, Irene from Seattle.
Yes, and if you are from another state, we're in Atlanta. We're stationed in Atlanta. But if you are from a different state, represent your city right now.
Yeah.
And let us know where you're calling, checking in from. And we are glad that you joined in on us tonight.
Yeah.
And we're excited about tonight's topic because this is going to get hot.
Yeah.
And it's going to get stirred up a little bit. And we're going to be talking about communication. Communication in the marriage,
or
just communication in relationship.
Yeah. And so, guys, as we wait for our MBG family to jump on and join us, like Ronald said, just drop us a hello. Let us know where you're watching from. Also, feel free to share the video with anybody that you feel like may benefit on your page from this scope. Last week, if you missed last week, hey, Shawana from Ohio. Wow. Thanks for tuning in with us. We appreciate you guys. If you tuned in with us the last couple of weeks, we had been talking about sex and affection in marriage. Those were 2 hot button topics that we had been discussing, and we had some really good dialogue about it. We got some really good inboxes concerning it, and we've had some great conversations after it. So if you missed those live videos, they're still on our page. You can go catch them from a couple weeks ago, and because they have some great points about sex and sex and affection / intimacy in a marriage. That's what we talked about last 2 weeks. So now we're going to be talking about communication, guys. If you're jumping on MBG with us, go ahead and feel free to share it. Share the video, invite people to come on over and tune in with us and engage with us. If you're new to MBG, let us know that too. Represent your city and state. As we see, we got people from North Carolina, Ohio, Seattle in the building joining with us, so we appreciate you guys. Also, we have our 2nd annual marriage conference coming up this August.
Think It Strong.
Think It Strong. The Think It Strong conference is going to be all about thinking your marriage strong. We all know that everything begins with the power of your thoughts. Hey, Gary. And we know that in order to have great, successful marriages, we have to think them that way. We have to see them that way. We have to imagine them that way. And we have to transform our mind first before we can transform our reality in our marriages. And so we're going to be talking about how you can effectively do that in marriage and relationships.
And also, just to add to what you were saying about the Think It Strong, the Bible says this: as a man thinketh, so as he.
As he is in his heart. Yep.
As he is in his heart. So as you think, what you think you are, that's what you will become. So if you think that your marriage is successful, you will have a successful marriage.
Yeah.
If you think that your marriage is great, you will have a great marriage.
Yeah.
If you think your marriage is on the road to an end, your marriage will soon come to an end. So it's all about renewing the mind. That's one of the things you got to put in your mind, because as stated in one of our latest earlier scope, I said this: I said that your your brain, your subconscious mind tends to soak in everything that everything, your thought process. And so it's like a garden. And then everything that you think, it plants a seed into your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind begins to develop what you have placed inside of your subconscious mind. And so when you think you're successful, granted, you will become successful. But you have to believe it in your heart. The Bible said, he who confesses with his mouth and believe in his heart.
Yeah.
Believe it. So a lot of us think that we're successful. A lot of us think that we have great marriage, but we really don't truly believe it in our heart that we have a great marriage. And so tonight's topic, as we said, I was playing Jodeci, come and talk to me.
It's not gonna let you play the video.
Oh, it's not.
Play it if you play the music without a little copyright stuff.
Okay.
Going on.
So tonight we'll be talking about communication.
So guys, we're gonna be talking about communication. I saw somebody in here that I wanted to say hey to. Somebody's in here from Minnesota. Hey, Terrion from Georgia. We appreciate you guys jumping in. And so we're going to be talking about communication. Guys. Last week we talked about the importance of sex and affection in marriage. But at the root of all of that is the ability to communicate effectively, guys. And so we found that a lot of marriages struggle with just talking. They struggle with communicating. They struggle with understanding each other and being able to dialogue about any and everything. In every marriage, you should be able to talk about any and everything. No topic should be off limits in a marriage or a relationship, especially if you're trying to build your relationship towards a marriage. It's very important to have effective communication. In our book, Married by God, God's Blueprint to a Successful Marriage, we talk about there being only two ways to communicate, effectively and ineffectively.
Yes.
And you want to communicate effectively in your marriage or your relationship so that you can begin to be successful. And so when we look at communication, guys, there's so many different styles. Like, people have so many different styles of communicating, but you got to be able to communicate to be able to have a successful marriage. Me and Ronald talk all the time, all the time. And we talk all the time about any and everything. It can be a very just basic conversation to very serious things that we have to sit down and talk about. And it's important to establish that early on in your marriage or your relationship so that you can begin to carry that on through your marriage and your relationship.
Yes. So let's get started.
Let's get started.
With communication. Because at the root of it, everything that happened within or outside of a marriage, it's the root of communication. Everything. So whether it's finances, if you're not properly communicating the finances and you're having finance issues, guess what? If you don't communicate those issues, you're going to have issues. If it's sex is the problem in your marriage and you don't communicate that, you're going to continue to have issues in your marriage.
Yeah.
If it is infidelity in your marriage, and if you don't communicate what is the issue, what is the lack of in your marriage, guess what? You're going to continue to have those issues.
Yeah.
So at the root of it, of every divorce or any marriage, before it begins, it has to start with a great communication skill.
Yeah. You got to have that foundation.
Because one of the things that communication does, it opens up the ability to be able to get comfortable with someone.
Yeah.
Anytime you communicate, okay, let's take it back to the Bible.
Yeah.
Let's take it back to prayer. Prayer is simply communication.
Yeah.
Anytime you communicate with God, it's simply prayer.
Yeah.
And so the more you communicate with him, the more he knows you.
Yeah.
The more he knows you, the more he can communicate with you on a one-on-one, and you build a relationship with him. You become intimate with him.
Yeah.
Likewise, in your marriage, the more you communicate with your spouse, the more you know about your spouse.
Yeah.
The more you know about your spouse, the more intimate you can become with your spouse.
Yeah.
Because then your spouse become comfortable with you.
Yes.
And so the more you become comfortable with someone, the more you become one with that person, the more you're willing to share with that person. And so the more you share with that person, the more effective your communication becomes. Because it's easier when you communicate all the time and you know how the reaction that you're going to get from this person, but at least you get it off your chest.
Yeah. And I think at the root of it, we got to understand that communication is the lifeline to any relationship, to any marriage. Communication is. And if you're able to master communication or work at mastering communication, you can get through any and everything in a marriage and a relationship, but you got to be able to talk about it. It starts with the ability to be able to have a conversation about it. And if you're not willing to have a conversation about it, there's no way to change any issue that you will face in your marriage or your relationship. And so I think first we were talking about some points we wanted to give in order to be able to communicate in marriage. And so before we do that, I just want to see from you guys. You can give me a thumbs up in the comments, or give me some or give me some thumbs up blue. How many of you guys have had a communication problem in your marriage, or know people that are struggling with a communication problem? So how many of you guys have had a communication problem in your marriage, or know someone that is struggling with the communication problem? When I say struggling with a communication problem, I mean that it truly is impacting their marriage or their relationship, that they're almost on the brink of divorce, that they're just really going through some hard times because of communication. I see some thumbs up going now that some people know somebody or have struggled with it. And guys, and so for those who maybe new to MBG, we do this every week. We do a scope different topics. And so if you do have questions, because I see Jessica, I do see your question, I'll get to it. If you got questions, go ahead and feel free to throw them in the comments. We will go through the comments as we're discussing communication, as we're presenting on this topic. So we will get to your question. If you go ahead and put it at any point in time, we'll make sure that we touch on it. But if you know someone, or you yourself has struggled with communication, just give us a thumbs up. I mean, me and Ronald struggle with communication early on certain topics in our marriage. But the wonderful thing about our relationship that God established early was that we were friends before we ever dated. And so we were friends for 4 years. And so our communication as friends was very solid. So we could talk about any and everything under the sun. And that was the foundation to our marriage, and going into a marriage, being able to talk. Now, there were still some topics that were hard to talk about, because there's some things that's hard to talk about. There's no easy way to talk about some things that you have to talk about in marriage. Just like we were talking last week about sex and affection. A lot of people don't know how to have that conversation when you're not getting your needs met from your spouse, and to be able to move forward. So there's some things you may face in your marriage or your relationship that are tough to talk about, but that does not mean that you should not talk about them. Yeah. Because they got to be talked about.
And I think it's always good to talk about those things that you may not want to talk about. Because when you bottle so much in, what happens is it begins to build pressure. And at any time or anything that build pressure, it's going to burst at some point of time. Yeah. And so I guess we're going to go ahead and try to answer some of the questions.
Yeah. So Jessica, I see you saying, what should I do if every time I try to express how I feel to my husband, he gets angry and won't talk? That's great, because that's one of the points that we're going to hit on when we have this discussion. The thing about communication that's so very important is for people to be able to control their emotions. That's one of our key points that we talked about. In order to communicate effectively, you got to have some self-control. You definitely got to have self-control over your emotions. And a lot of time when you're dealing with people who aren't able to control their emotions, sometimes it stems from a place of hearing the truth. And a lot of times when you hear the truth in your marriage or your relationship, many of us get on the defense very quickly. And a lot of times when we say things offensively, we get on the defense. And so anything that you communicate offensively is going to create defensiveness.
Well, just to add to what you're saying, I think one of the things we have to do is when you're talking to someone, whatever you're talking to, communicating about them to, you have to be tactful. Because I think the way that you say things going to have an effect on how that person receives it. Yeah. Now, because you can get anything across to anybody, but I think it's going to be the way that you say it and the way that you come off. Because a lot of times when we're trying to get a point across, most of the times, 85% of the time, it's going to be in a mix of an argument. Yeah. Is when you're trying to really get your point across. Yeah. Instead of sitting down and say, hey, look, and a lot of pastors and a lot of people that I know in management, they use the build up, the tear down kind of method, where they kind of give praises first.
When praises go up.
When praises go up. And then all hell break loose. And so that's one of the things I think you have to be mindful of when you're doing that type of thing. When you want to really hit someone with a nice one, I think you have to build them. Yeah, I really appreciate you. I thank you for everything that you're doing. But I think we need to work on your.
But
anytime you put that "but" behind it, you know it's something coming.
Look, this is the thing, guys, and I think you made a great point, babe, that you just said. A lot of times our communication begins when an argument ensues. And so that's already a deficit in a marriage or a relationship. If the only time that you're truly communicating on subjects or communicating with each other is at the onset of an argument, you are already struggling with communication. And so me and Ronald, we established this thing very early on in our marriage because we saw that we were falling into that very pattern, that we really got intense in our arguments because we wanted to get everything out that we needed to say in that argumentative moment, and that wasn't the time or the space for it. And so we established having these check-ins that we do every month, and we get together and we do a check-in, and the check-in is strictly to see, hey, let's talk about what's going good, what has been great over the last month, what did you do that I love, those things. So we start with praises, we start with the good things, then we start with the areas of improvement is what we call them. What areas can we improve on? And we go in with the intent to listen. And so we're cool, we're in love at the moment, we're on good terms, so we're not presenting an issue when we're already angry, when we're already kind of tuned out because we're already arguing about something, and we're not compiling other issues on one issue. So we're coming to the table with just what we need to discuss, and we both know and understand that we're going to come to this table and there may be some things that need to be improved on.
And I was going to say, and just to back up a little bit, and a lot of times why I said it's good, if you're feeling something and you need to get it off your chest, I think it's good to go ahead and get it off your chest. Because let me tell you, let me show you a scenario what typically happens in a relationship or in a marriage. What happens is we bottle some things up and we let it go. We bottle some stuff up and then we stack it somewhere. We bottle it, we're just going to let it go. You know what? I ain't going to even say nothing this time. I ain't going to say nothing this time. And so the pressure builds up so high that when one big argument go back, and this is crazy. It's going to sound funny, but I done heard people do this. Oh, you remember last year when I told you not to go out, but you went out anyway? Yeah, I was mad that day. And then when you had done told me that you didn't want me to go out with Tanya and I stayed at home, and then you went to the football game, and all that stuff bottled up.
From 2011.
2011. Now you're releasing everything. I'm talking about you releasing it all. Because now you have gotten to a point where the pressure has gotten too much and you're like, you know what? I got to release all this pressure. And so that's why it's not good to just let things go, or it's not good to just let things slide. If something is bothering you, speak on it. Pick a good time. I'm not just saying in the heat of the moment and you feeling like you about to explode and then you try to speak on it. But if you think you're going to explode, give yourself a cool down time. And you come back and revisit it, and you sit down and talk. Hey, love, I need to talk to you for a minute. This is how I felt when you did this yesterday.
And the thing about it is, guys, we got to learn not to be passive. Like, I know a lot of people that resolve their issues simply by being passive about it. Like, they won't communicate about it. They don't like conflict. They won't discuss it. But it eats them up. It bothers them to the core. But they will never address it, and they will never talk about it. And that's very dangerous, because anytime that you continue to be passive in a relationship and somebody continues to have a behavior or do something that you do not like, that bothers you, you will begin to resent your spouse. And that resentment starts by a little bitty seed that you plant. And you don't realize that you're planting that seed in your marriage by being passive. And then it gets watered with every event that happens, with every occurrence of something that you don't like. You begin to water that seed. And before you know it, you're like, where did this forest come from? Why do I feel like this about my spouse? Why do I have this hate, this resentment towards them? But that's because you have allowed a behavior that you should have spoke on and addressed to continue. We always say, don't allow a behavior in your marriage that will make you resent your spouse in the future. Don't allow it in the present. You got to be able to talk about it, like Ronald said. And if you're heated at the moment, take some time, step back, cool down. But you got to be able to talk about it. Just not addressing it and just not facing it doesn't make it go away. It's just going to continue to compile on your heart and on your spirit to the point that you explode, like Ronald said. And then you're walking around like a soda can shook up, waiting to explode.
Now, if you don't explode, what happened is, like you said, you'll begin to resent your spouse. And you won't even know it. it's just like everything that your spouse do will begin to bother you.
Yeah.
All because what you're holding in, you have not released it out into the atmosphere, into your spouse.
Yeah.
And so everything that spouse does, it gets on your nerve. Like, he can sneeze or she can sneeze.
Yeah.
You're like, why you got to sneeze in here?
Yeah, because I'm mad about the issue.
The issue. But you're not addressing the issue.
Absolutely. So Candace said, how long is too long to put something on the back burner into a more opportune time?
I would say within the first 24 hours.
Yeah. And I'll say the first 24 hours, but I even give you 72 at the most. Like if it's a heated type of topic, but I will say for you to be able to put it on the back burner, I think you both got to agree. I think you should come to your spouse and say, hey, I know this kind of heated. Can we agree on a time frame we can come back together? So do you need 2 days? You want to talk about it tomorrow? I think just getting upset with each other and not putting a comeback time on it is what makes things linger and go on undiscussed, and then they resurface again 5 more months down the line because we haven't discussed it or addressed it. And so I think if you agree on a time frame that's realistic for you both, it'll be the better. It'll turn out better because you guys are willing to work on that at that specific time.
And I was going to say also picking a good time.
Yes.
To do it.
Yes.
Because, every time is not a good time.
No.
I could be done just got off from work and had a long, stressful day. And now you come in saying, let's talk.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to talk right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm already frustrated from what just happened at work. And I understand we have to talk about this. But, give me a minute. Or I might tell you, okay, let me go shower, let me eat, and then we can, talk about it. But right now I'm kind of frustrated.
Yeah.
And so this is where the both of you have the line of communication open. So to understand that, okay, I understand you want to talk, but I'm kind of frustrated too.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to take my day's frustration out on your topic that you want to talk to me about. Or that what happened in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so the first point we have, man, you have to be open and honest in order to communicate. In a marriage or relationship, you got to be open and honest in order to communicate. I tell people all the time, you can't be hidden and honest. A lot of people don't communicate because they're so busy trying to hide stuff. Like, you got to be able to be open and honest for us to be able to talk about it. A lot of times when you see people that don't want to have a conversation about a certain subject, about a certain topic, it's something that they're hiding that they don't want revealed, whether it's their true feelings on the subject or topic or something that may have taken place, or they just hiding from being vulnerable. And there's no way to be victorious in your communication if you're not willing to be vulnerable. We have to be willing to be vulnerable with each other in a marriage or relationship. Marriages, especially marriages, are the place that you're supposed to be able to be the most vulnerable.
Well, I think that's going to be the key to getting to the next level to having a successful marriage, because nobody wants to put themselves out there to be hurt. That's when you talk about being vulnerable. That's basically what you're saying is, hey, here's my heart. You can do what you want to do with it.
Yeah.
So this person have now gotten your heart in their hand. They could either hold tight to it or they could throw it on the ground and step on it.
Yeah.
And so nobody wants to hand over their heart to someone.
Yeah.
But in order for you to move to that next level, you got to be willing to take that risk.
Yeah.
And nobody want to take a risk. And the only way to be successful, even when you look at it from a entrepreneurship, if you're not willing to take a risk, you don't want success.
Yeah.
Because success involves taking risks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're not able to be open and honest in your marriage or your relationship, you're doing a disservice to your spouse or your significant other, because what you're doing now is not even allowing them the space to correct the behavior or address the issue, because you're not honest about it. And so if I have a problem with the way my husband talks to me, but I am passive about it and I never really address it with him, I have not given him the space to even correct the behavior, one.
Yes.
And so it's unfair to hold him accountable to his behavior if I haven't even given him the space to correct it. He doesn't even know it's an issue. And so how can I expect him to fix something that he doesn't even truly know is an issue for me? That's why it's important to be open and honest. You got to be open and honest about anything. If it's anything that you don't like, anything that gets under your skin, anything that you feel some kind of way about that truly could affect your marriage or your relationship, you need to talk about it. Now, we're not talking about these superficial things that really don't have no impact on your marriage or your relationship, but the things that really do, that at the core of it, it's a problem. We got to be able to talk about those things, and we got to give our spouses and our significant others the chance to correct it.
And one thing you also have to realize everybody don't come from that background of open communication. And so some people had to be walked into or crawled into learning how to communicate. So if you have a spouse who is not good at communication, you cannot force communication on your spouse.
Come on now.
You know, you have to,
somebody.
you know,
that's not even one of my points, but you just made it a point. The point is, you gotta know your spouse or significant other's communication history.
Yeah.
You gotta know their history, guys. A lot of times we want to put our spouse at a college level communication, and really they in kindergarten on their level of communication.
Yeah.
And so if you cannot, that's why it's so important to understand where they are, and then you gotta meet them where they are. I ain't mean to, jump in your comment.
No, go ahead. You
but to
always
meet
taking my
them.
comment. Go ahead. No.
I don't know, that just made me think about it, because you got to be able to meet them where they are.
And see, this is what great communication does. It makes the other spouse think.
It does.
I said one word and she took it and ran with it.
It does.
I wasn't even finished, but go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it does, because I think that's so much what we see when we coach couples. You have one person in the marriage that's very effective in their ability to communicate. And so they got communication kind of down packed. They understand what it takes, what they need to do. They got their tone right. They got their times right when they need to communicate. And then you got the other spouse that's at a kindergarten level that's like, we didn't talk. I don't want to talk. I'm upset. I'm in my feelings. I'm not going to talk right now. Forget about it. See me tomorrow. You got that person that doesn't want to get beyond the emotions to even be able to have communication. And so you got to know where your spouse is. You got to know your spouse's history on communication. How did their family communicate? That's things that we should be talking about in a marriage. How did your family communicate? When there was an issue in your family, did you guys talk?
Did they yell? Did they throw bottles?
Exactly.
Did they curse?
Exactly.
Did they kick holes in the wall?
Exactly.
Did they throw the phone? Did they kick over the computer? Did they run? Did they leave? Did they drink alcohol? Did they smoke drugs?
Come on now.
So those are the things that we have to find out the history. But the only way to find out the history is through communication.
That's
because
it.
if you don't communicate, like I said, the more you communicate with someone, the more you get to know about someone. And the more you know about someone, the more you become intimate with someone. And the more you become intimate with someone is the more you become one with that person.
Yeah.
Because then you begin to know everything that you would need to know about that person. And when you know just about, technically you're not going to know everything, but once you get to know enough stuff about someone, you know what moves that person, what turns that person on, what turns that person off. You know when to step back. You know when to throw in the towel. You know when to fight. You know when to say enough is enough. You know when to shut up. With, like most women, they typically don't know when to shut up. But
it's no time to shut up.
Be quiet. Let's use the word be quiet then. And so it's a way that you can get your wife to be quiet without saying shut up.
Or be quiet.
But it's all about that communication and being tactful in that communication.
Yeah. And what typically what happens though when you get married, people become lazy with engaging communication.
Yeah, and people get lazy with everything.
Yeah.
See, but the thing is, to have I didn't mean to cut you off, but to have a successful marriage, you can't allow yourself to be relaxed.
Yes.
You have to always stay, and that's
ahead of the game.
And like I said, even we were talking about this last scope.
Yeah.
Even with intimacy, most men typically get lazy.
Yeah.
Because I was, running, trying to get you, but once I got you, I feel like I don't have to do much. Even when it comes down to sex, the wife, you were fornicating before you even got sex.
Yeah.
But then when you get married, you don't even want to get the man sex.
Yeah.
How confusing is that?
Yeah.
Now, it should be vice versa. You should be giving him nothing before sex. And when you get sex, you should give him more than he needs.
Not before marriage, sex.
Huh?
Never mind. Complacent past a year ago. I see that doesn't work. Absolutely, Candace. Complacent and a passive does not work at all.
No.
It just the issue is still there, and what happens is it just continues to grow and build a wall between you two, and then you can't communicate and you can't deal with the things that you need to deal with. You got to be able to talk about it. I was just gonna get to a point. Something you said triggered a thought, and I forgot it. So I'll go to point number 2 until I get that thought back, guys. For those of you just jumping on MBG, thanks for joining us. We are jumping on tonight as we could not get on last night. If you're on field, please share the video with your followers. Also invite people to come and join us as we talk about communication. If you have questions, feel free to drop it in the comment box. We will answer the communications and engage as we're doing the presentation. So point number 2, you have to be able to listen for understanding. You have to be able to listen for understanding. So many times in relationships and marriages, we listen to respond. We listen to find fault. We listen to be right. We do not listen for understanding. No. And the moment that you have an agenda, when you're already communicating, you're not listening for understanding. You have to begin to train yourself to listen for understanding, because that's not a natural thing that we do, especially when somebody brings an issue to you. Just think about it when you're at work. A lot of times, if you're getting evaluated at work for performance, and so I used to be in management for a long time, and I used to have to sit down with my staff and do performance evaluations. And so when you're getting evaluated, and I used to even have to have them for myself, and so when I would get evaluated, as I heard the good things, I was listening like for understanding on those. Like I was listening for understanding. I'm like, yeah, that's me. Yeah, I got that. But as we got to the places, the areas of improvement, the needs improvement piece, I kind of already was having my mind running like, well, I kind of didn't get to that point because this didn't happen, and I just got too much on my plate. I really can't be effective at doing that because you guys continue to do this. So I already had a defense. And so anytime you're in your marriage and your relationship and your mind is running like that, when you're trying to have a conversation with your spouse, or your spouse is trying to have a conversation with you, you're not listening for understanding. You're listening to defend your point. You're listening to defend why things are the way they are from your perspective. Yes. And so we got to be able to listen with understanding. To listen with understanding means to, whether you agree or not with how they feel, that's how they feel. Like the worst thing to do to someone in a relationship when they come and tell you how they feel and be like, well, no, it's not like that. You shouldn't feel like that. How you gonna tell me how I should feel? Like, how you gonna tell me? Yeah. The way you said it made me feel XYZ. Now, your intent may not have been to make me feel XYZ, but you got to be able to let me feel like I feel and say, hey, babe, I understand, that you feel that way. I'm sorry you feel that way. You got to acknowledge your spouse's feelings. So you can easily say, I'm sorry you feel that way. My intent was not to spark that feeling in you. My intent was to do this.
See, but when you don't listen with understanding what happened, this typically how it go. Hey, what you said yesterday will hurt my feelings. I wasn't trying to hurt your feelings.
That's exactly how it goes. That's exactly how it goes.
I was just saying, what you said hurt my feelings. And so I didn't try to hurt your feelings. I was trying to let you know that what you had did was wrong. And you're like, okay, well, you hurt my feelings.
Absolutely.
And so listen for understanding.
Listen for understanding. You got to listen for understanding.
And the Bible says this, be quick to listen and slow to speak.
Yes.
Be quick to listen. Because when you listen...
But we quick to speak.
We quick to speak. But when you listen, it goes in and it goes down for digestion. So when you digest it, and then it comes back up. See, but it had to go down and get into your system, and you understand it. Once you understand it, you say, okay, I heard you. Yeah. I understand exactly what you're saying.
And Keisha, I see you saying you go through this with your husband and you're really sick of it. So we're going to encourage you that even though you're sick of it, because I'm listening to what you're saying, I hear the frustration. I hear you saying you're really tired of going through this process, but I want you to see it from a different perspective. And so you almost got to see it. And we talked about, I'm not sure if you were there when we were talking about it from the beginning, about the level of communication that your husband has. And so while your communication may be at a college degree level, his may be at an elementary level. Right. And so you got to learn to meet people where they are. And a lot of times we don't meet our spouses where they are in their ability to communicate. And so that brings about frustration for us because we want them to get it like we get it. And so you got to almost handle it like you would handle your child that you're raising. And so my 2-year-old, when I'm trying to communicate with him, I understand that he's not going to process and get things like my 14-year-old. And so in order to still bring about a certain behavior change in him, I have to figure out a most effective way to communicate the same thing that I wanted to get to my 14-year-old to my 2-year-old. And it doesn't happen overnight. Guys, you got to continue to do it. It's not something that changes overnight.
Yeah.
We got to understand that a lot of times when you're married to somebody, this has been 30 years of them being raised with this way of communication.
Right.
This has been 40 years of them being raised with this style, this way of communicating. So you can't think that you being married for 5 years is going to change 30 years of the way I've been taught to communicate. That's going to change over time. And we got to be consistent.
And also, when you're trying to, communicate with someone, learn their communication style.
Yeah.
Because sometimes their communication is not you sitting down talking to them.
Yep.
Sometimes you may have to write them a letter.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you may have to text them something so that they can read it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be different ways that you're going to have to communicate with someone who really typically don't know how to communicate.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to find their style.
Their style. It's going to be all about their style. And also, you have to go, because really you can't change that person. Mm-hmm. Only God can change that person. Let's get that straight.
Yep.
So only God can really truly change that person. And it could be something that stems back from the childhood, is the reason why your husband may be the way that he is.
Yeah.
And sometimes, typically, this is what happens. When a man have an issue from his childhood, a lot of times he don't know how to communicate because he haven't dealt with that little boy who grew up in that situation that they was in. And so now when I become an adult, and I'm in a marriage or a relationship, I don't know how to communicate because I never taught. I wasn't taught.
Yeah.
That's just like some guys don't know how to show emotion. You know why most men don't know how to show emotion? Because when we was a child and we ran and we failed, the first thing your dad said, get back up, don't be crying.
Yep.
Crying is simply showing my emotion. That's how I feel at the time.
Yep.
And here it is. Someone is telling me, no, you don't show those emotions. You don't cry. You're a man. Be a boy. Man up. It ain't no crying. You're a big boy. And so you never have an opportunity to express those emotions.
Yeah.
If I want to say something to my father, he says, shut up. You don't say nothing.
Yeah.
That shuts down my communication on how to communicate.
Absolutely.
If I want to give, if I want to be affectionate with my mom, man, no, you don't know. All the hugging and kissing, no, you're not going to do all that.
Yeah.
It shuts down the way of our communicate. So now when I get older and I get a wife, I don't know how to be affectionate with my wife. I don't know how to tell my wife that I love her. I don't know how that when some situation come up and it requires me to cry and be submissive out, I don't know how to pour myself out.
Yeah.
Because now when I was a child, it was so much bottled in that my father told me that I had to be a man to hold some in, that I don't know how to communicate. I don't know how to show my emotion. I don't know how to be have intimacy with my wife, because all of those things now was so suppressed down into me when I was a child. And so now when you want to communicate with your husband, you like, what's wrong with him? He don't even, I'm trying to talk to him and he don't want to talk to me, or we get into, you have to make your spouse feel safe.
Yeah.
If you don't make your spouse feel safe, they're not going to expose nothing to you.
Yeah.
And so making that person feel safe to say, hey, this is what's going to happen. If you give me this, if you give me your heart, I'm going to hold tight to it. I'm not going to expose you. But what happens typically when the reason why most men don't give their heart so quickly to a woman, because in the midst of an argument, the woman will expose you.
Yeah.
And so nobody wants to be exposed. Nobody wants to be rejected. Nobody wants to be hurt.
Yeah.
Now, hurt and pain going to be a part of it.
Yep.
But it's not going to be something that's going to be consistently happen every time we get into an argument.
Yeah. 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 You got to go through the process at the end of the day. The same way that in our relationships with communication, the same way we teach our children to learn how to communicate, and they communicate better the more and more we engage with them at certain levels in a certain way. That's the same way it goes in a relationship, in a marriage. And I hear people say all the time, I shouldn't have to teach them how to communicate. No, you should not. It seems very unfair that you have to be the one that has to teach somebody how to communicate. But at the end of the day, this is the person we chose to marry. This is who we said I do to, for better or worse. And now we having this worst communication style. We got to work on the better. And so you don't get to get frustrated. I mean, you get to get frustrated, but you got to keep trying. You got to keep building. You got to keep growing towards changing the communication behavior.
And I like something that you said earlier. You was like, it's like you teaching your child
Yeah.
how to communicate. Because one thing about it, you love your child unconditionally.
Unconditionally.
And so you would never give up on your child. Even with the people who children are dyslexic or have some kind of issue, they never give up on them. Even after the doctor them told them, hey, your child will not
Never
speak.
communicate.
Your-
Yep.
Your child will never, you say, no, he's going to communicate. And then you keep trying at the 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. And at year 7,
Yeah.
your child, after all that communication, say, mama.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing to you.
Yeah.
Because they have made a step toward what you have been working toward.
Absolutely.
And so you have to continue to work with your husband, work
Yeah.
with your spouse on how to become effective
Yeah.
communicator.
And pay attention to the good points, pay attention to the baby steps, I'll say. Like, because there has to be some good in all of this process. So pay attention to the baby steps, no matter how minute they might be. Pay attention to them, because that's a step in the right direction. But I
Yeah.
like what you said, babe, because a lot of times when we know someone has a condition, we're more committed to working with the person. But in marriage, sometimes we hide our conditions so well that our spouse doesn't know we have a condition. And so they don't have the same tolerance for us, because we're not willing
Yeah.
to acknowledge that we have a condition that's a deficit to us, that stops us from being able to do something. And so a lot of us won't own up to the fact that we have a communication problem. And so you'll find your spouse not willing to give you any grace or getting frustrated with you, because first, you don't even want to acknowledge you have a problem. You say you don't have a problem. So if I'm dealing with something that I know there's an issue there, then I can have a lot of more patience working with you. So we got to acknowledge our own stuff too.
Well, the problem is nobody wants to feel like they're crazy.
Yeah.
And so nobody wants to acknowledge that, yes, I have a problem. Because when you say that, yes, I have a problem, that basically like saying, yes, I'm crazy or something is wrong with me. No one likes to feel like something is wrong with them.
Yeah.
And so when you come and say, yes, I have, nobody's going to say, hey, I have a communication problem. Because if that was the case, a lot of the commercial wouldn't do the things that they do when they advertise it. And so basically when you get into a relationship, you advertising yourself. That, hey, man, I'm the best person you ever want to meet. I'm going to love you for the rest of your life. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to buy you all the finer things in life. I'm going to give you everything that your heart needs and desires. But then the little caption says, no, he's a fool. He always run out when he have issues. He don't know how to communicate. No, so nobody exposed
Nobody
the
reads the
side
fine
effects.
print.
Nobody come in a relationship and
Absolutely.
expose the side
That's a
effects.
good
Nobody
one.
gonna say, hey, I have a big communication problem. Back in my childhood, I was molested, and now I don't even know how to treat a woman. Every woman to me is a female dog. And so this is the way that I communicate. So if you make me mad, I'm going to kick the phone over. I'm going to turn the TV over. I'm going to punch a hole in the wall. That's if you make me mad. Now, depending on what you may say to me, you may get hit yourself.
Exactly. Nobody says that.
What happens is like, this dude is crazy.
Yeah.
But what we do is we hide all of that like a commercial and
Uh-huh.
say, hey, I'm here for you. I'm here to love you.
We advertise the
I'm
good.
a great communicator. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? If you hear my voice now, I can communicate.
Yeah.
You know, and I love God.
Yeah.
And mainly, this guy don't love God. He never been to church. He don't know anything about God. He don't know how to love his wife. Like, not his wife, but he don't even know what love is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then you
Yeah.
get married to the guy. He's like, man, I have messed up.
Yeah.
This guy do not know how to communicate. This guy he's have an anger issue. Every time he get mad, he want to leave and go drink alcohol. But these are the side effects that you didn't see when you got into the marriage. So now, I know your question may be, how now do I begin to deal with the side effects? How do you begin to deal with the side effects? It's very simple. You go to the manual. The manual of life, the manual of the human being. That is the Bible. God will teach you how to deal with your spouse who have issues.
Yep.
Matter of fact, you have more issues than your spouse. God have an issue with you. If you realize God never gave up on you when you had an issue, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so, matter of fact, you even hide your issues.
Yeah.
Because we all is messed up in some type, form, or fashion.
Yep.
But we just don't expose it.
Absolutely.
And so what
Absolutely.
happens is, what God does is he give what we call grace.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing you have to give to your spouse. You have
Yeah.
to give your spouse that grace. And
Absolutely.
I'm not saying if your husband hit you in your eye and give you a black eye, you're going to say, no, I'm going to give you grace.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying that. Don't
No,
be
no.
a fool. It's
Yeah.
a difference between being a fool and giving grace. I'm not saying
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
But now you have to go back to the manual of which you both was created. And you have to go back to the foundation. You have to go to the source, not the resource. You have to
Yep.
go to the source of what you came from.
Yep.
And now, that is the Bible.
Yeah.
That's prayer, studying,
Yeah.
going to God, seeking God's face and say, hey, God, I need help in my marriage.
Absolutely.
I need help.
Yeah.
Because if my spouse have an issue and I go to God and say, I need help, because I need help so my spouse can see the God in me. And when my spouse see the God in me, it will begin to transform. Because I can't transform.
Yeah.
It's something that I have to see in my spouse for me to change.
Yeah.
But you can't be one of the people who's saying you want your spouse to change and you being hypocritical.
Yeah.
You saying you go to church, you read the Bible,
Yeah.
but then as soon as your spouse say something to you, you spitting fire.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you can't do that.
Yeah.
That's being hypocritical. Because now you're making me not even want to believe in God. If you're a godly person and you act this way, I'm gonna have an issue with that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we all are not perfect, but at some point you have to begin to show the characteristics of Christ.
You do. You do. You do. So we were talking about having effective communication in marriage. And so we said point one, you have to be open and honest. You got to keep
Open
it
and honest.
100. You got to be real. You got to talk about any and everything in order to communicate effectively. Second, we talked about you have to be able to listen for understanding, guys. You got to listen for understanding. A lot of times we don't listen to understand. We listen to respond. We listen to get defensive. We listen to correct the other person. So we don't listen for understanding. We got to be able to listen for understanding so we can respond correctly. Third, you have to be able to control your emotions when conversing. This is a big piece for marriage and for couples. I think, Ronald, you touched on it earlier. You were talking about how when people communicate, if something is said that you don't like, name calling starts, yelling starts, just different things, slamming doors, throwing stuff. We all probably have been in very heated conversations where things have been said that we wish we could take back. I know I've done it. Where things have been done that we wish we could take back, where somebody leaves. All of that does not help the situation. The inability to control our emotions does not help us have a better marriage or relationship, guys. If you think about it, and I always like to, when I look at communication, I always look at it as from where I was with my kids, building them to how my oldest communicates now. And so typically those who have kids, you understand that the children go through the little phase where they want to have tantrums. Now I've seen tantrums on a scale from 1 to 100. Now, the thing about 100 level tantrums is that parent has allowed that child to continue to have a lack of control over their emotions continuously, that this is the only way they know how to respond to get a response back from the person they're trying to communicate with. So typically when you see children fall out in the store because they're not getting the response they want to get from their parent, and they will have a whole 30-minute fallout session and tantrum with their parents, that's because that parent has continued to allow that behavior. Now, you can take the same 2 or 3-year-old and you can see a parent say, no, we're not going to do that today. Get yourself together. And that child will get themselves together because what they have done is learn how to communicate.
No, it don't be like, all right, get yourself together. You better get yourself. Come on, man. Most parents.
I'm just saying the words.
But no, we got to give the people the real, like.
I don't have all that emotion you have. Like,
and we don't say, get yourself together. You know what we really say. You better.
You know what parents say.
No, we got to give it to them. You better get your.
Right now.
Right now.
And you get on their level.
Yeah.
And you like,
even
in their face.
Yeah, I've been saying, even when you got a little kid who's 2 or 3, I even get down on their level.
No, but you communicate to them that this tantrum you're having is unacceptable. Yeah. At the root of it, that's what happens. And so when we get in a marriage and a relationship, we still have spouses that have tantrums when you're trying to communicate. And if you have a tantrum spouse, you got to know you got a tantrum spouse, one. You got to know you got a tantrum spouse, and you got to deal with the tantrum spouse a little different than you deal with a spouse that has control over their emotions. Because anytime you engage somebody that has no control over their emotions, when they're out of control, the situation is going to go from worse to extremely bad to devastating.
Well, the thing is, I think even when you're dealing with a spouse, you still have to be tactful.
Yes.
Because as a grown man, you're not going to handle me and tell me what I better do and what I better not do.
Yeah.
So you still have to be tactful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's still even some people, men or women, that you're not telling them what they're not going to do. And you can be as tactful as you want to be, but because they're used to getting things their way and doing things their way, they don't want you to tell them anything.
Well, that's because you done married a selfish, something, something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because and these are the signs that you got to look out for.
Yeah.
You gotta, these are red flags.
Yeah.
If you that selfish, you shouldn't be married.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because marriage, when you marry a woman, it said, he who finds a wife find a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you went out and you were searching and you found
Mm-hmm.
your wife. And when you love someone, you are willing to give everything. That's now you want to take it back to a child level. People love their kids unconditionally.
Yeah.
People will spend their last on their child. They would give their child half of their rent money to have a birthday party, their first birthday party, and then, pay their mortgage or their rent late just to give their child. But then we get in a marriage and we don't even want to share anything with our spouse.
Nope.
That's
We don't care
one
how
thing
you
I don't
doing.
understand.
We don't care what's going on with you. And you're right, because you think about it, like even me looking at, talking to my older kids or my younger kids, I ask them a lot, how was your day? What happened if I see their mood is shifted and they're in kind of like a little, ugly mood. I'm like, what happened with you today? What's going on? Let's talk about it. I do my husband the same way. And so there's no way for us to expect to be blessed in our communication ability with our spouse if we're not willing to do with them what we always do with our kids or what we always do with other people, because it's not just with children. What you find too with people who have communication problems at home, they still go to work and they communicate just fine. Because at the end of it, if I got to talk to you to get my check, we're going to have a conversation.
And if you have to talk to your spouse to get great communication and be successful, you should be willing to
It's
take
the
that.
same thing, because
But
see,
we
we
don't
don't
do that.
see the return.
We don't
see
see the return.
Because you have this tangible thing in your hand that is your paycheck when you communicate effectively at work. But in marriage, you don't always see it right then. It has a long-term effect that you don't see right then, but we want that response. We want that tangible thing right now.
Yeah.
So sometimes when it's not working for us, we get frustrated and we give up because we don't have that tangible thing right now to say, hey, this communication is working. We're getting better. It's feeding my marriage. It's growing my marriage. It's adding to my marriage. Because we don't see that, we give up.
Well, we do have that tangible thing.
God, but what is it, love?
You just got to be willing to give it up.
Oh my God, I can't with you.
No, you do. You do.
Yeah, but I'm saying that a lot of times we don't see it like that, because at the end
but it's always something.
Yeah, it's always a benefit. If you take the time, that's part of the whole Think It Strong conference. If you take the time, the same time and energy you take to find fault in your marriage, if you take that same time and energy to find the good things, whether small or large, you will always be able to see something positive in your
I
marriage.
agree.
Always.
I agree.
But typically, human nature is for us to point out the bad things, the negative things, the difficult things. That's what we look at, because that's what impacts us the most at the time. And so we can quickly forget how blessed we are when we start struggling.
Yeah.
But when you good and you have no conflict, it's like you can remember how blessed you are. But soon as conflict happens, then it's like, oh my God, nothing
It's a
ever goes
breakdown.
right. It's over. It always and that's not the case. And so I think you just got to be willing to work on your communication, but you got to be able to talk about it, and you got to be able to control your emotions. When your emotions are out of control, your words are out of control. What you say is out of control. Your feelings are out of control. There's no way to be able to communicate effectively if you can't control yourself, because nobody wants to talk to somebody who is recklessly just saying whatever with their mouth. The Bible says there's life and death in the power of the tongue. And so if there's life and death in your words, in what you speak, you have the ability to give life to your marriage, or you have the ability to kill your marriage. And a lot of times, by the time people come see us, they've been doing a lot of killing with their mouth. And people don't want to take accountability for what comes out of their mouth. Because what comes out of your mouth is seeds, guys. It's seeds that you drop in your marriage, and those seeds get watered. And before you know it, you can have a lot of bad fruit in your marriage simply by what you spoke into it. Yeah, the seeds that you planted. So you got to be careful about what you speak when you're communicating in your marriage, your relationship. And you got to be careful what you say. That's why it's important that if you're really, 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 really mad, and you know at that point that anything could come out your mouth, tell your spouse, give me a little time. So we were sitting here talking like in the lightning and the wind came real quick by our window. So we we were like in thunderstorms. So me and Rhonda kind of looked up like, what was that? But it's a thunderstorm over here, guys. So if our reception starts to get a little crazy, it's storming out here where we are. And so y'all just bear with us. Let me see if I can go through some of these comments. I can't be with someone who doesn't have control over their emotions. Jasmine, I can't be with someone. Absolutely, Jasmine. Hopefully you're not married yet, so you're not with somebody who don't have no control, or you're married to somebody who has control. But typically, like Ronald said, a lot of times people will package y'all seen our lights flicking? Look at the enemy. Like, a lot of times people will package up their emotions, guys. They will package it up enough to get married. And so, like Ronald said, they won't show you the fine print. They'll show you the package. They'll show you I got the ability to control my emotions. And truly, they don't. And so you want to be able to pay attention to every conversation, every conflict that you have before you get married to see how that person responds, because then that will teach you how, where they are in their communication level, whether they're There it is. Hey, guys, if you can still see us or hear us, give us a thumbs up, or okay, you with us, a heart or something, so we know that you guys are back. I see the connection kind of weak, so we can know that most of you guys are back on and still with us. If you can see us or hear us, just give us a thumbs up in the comments, or say you hear or something, so we know we back on live and we don't have to jump off and jump back on. Hopefully. Can you guys see us? Okay, I see Candace giving me some thumbs up. So
if you can see us, everybody who's on the scope now, if you can see us, give us a thumbs up. Yeah, say hello.
They coming through now.
Yeah, I was just trying to make sure the comments was coming through.
Sean's came through.
Okay,
thanks, guys. And so, yeah, we were talking about communication and selfishness. We're like just in the midst of a thunderstorm down here in Atlanta. So we're trying to just get through the scope with the storm still going on. Sean talking about weathering the storm. Yeah, that's what we doing too, Sean, weathering the storm in and out. But we are hanging in there. Thanks, Gary. It's going in and out for us, but the weather is bad down here, so our reception is kind of bad right now. And so, guys, we're talking about communication. I think, Keisha, you said something about selfishness. Man, what's that scripture I was trying to look for? A lot of people get married who are very selfish. A lot of people get married and are selfish and want to stay selfish. There is no way to have a successful marriage and be selfish. There's just absolutely, positively, no way. There's no way to do it. And one thing that I think is so very great and very intentional about what God did with marriage is that I think that marriage is the best place to lose your selfishness. It's the best place to lose your selfishness. A lot of people hold on to their selfishness, and because they love their selfishness more than they're willing to let go of it for their spouse, they get divorced. And that's really what's at the core of everything. Because if you're an unselfish person, you're really willing to work on you enough and focus on you enough in a marriage and a relationship with God that it begins to change everything in your marriage and your relationship.
Well, I think one of the reasons why most people come into a marriage selfish is because the world tells us, hey, it's all about you. It's all about being an independent person.
Yeah.
It's about buying what you want, how you want it, when you want it, getting things that you want, how you want it, when you want it, and doing you.
Yeah.
See, this is what the world tells you. Do you.
Yeah.
You. If you want to do you, do you. You want to go out, go out. You want to, spend your money, spend your money. If you want to make it rain, make it rain. If you want to date somebody, date somebody. If you want to, date three people, date three people. It's cool. So this is what the world tell you. And so nobody tells us, hey, find you someone that you can grow with and build with.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you have people sometimes tell you that, but for the most part, like, do you. Man, you're too young. And most of the time, either you're too young, and by the time you decide that you want to settle down, really don't nobody want to settle down no more because, you done outgrown, who you once was.
Yeah.
And so the world tells us to do us. And then we get married and we still want to do us.
Yep.
But now we have to become selfless.
Yep.
Because it's not about you. It's not about you doing you.
Yep.
Now you have to do somebody else.
Yep.
Like, literally. do somebody
Like
else.
literally, oh my God.
No, I mean both. When you get married,
No, you do, and it's very hard sometimes to let go of yourself, especially if you have a spouse that you feel like isn't let go of themselves either. And so a lot of times if you have two selfish people come in, somebody has to bend and break in order for some progress to take place. But nobody wants to be the first one to do that. And so a lot of times you'll have this tug of war about holding on to their independence, when if they just bring it together and become one, they will find true freedom in their whole marriage. Like, that's the thing about marriage, doesn't confine you. You should be able to grow freely in a marriage, and marriage should make you feel more free than being single should. But a lot of people don't know how to come together.
well, because the perception that marriage has gotten, when you get married, you hitch.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's no more you. You can't do anything. You can't go nowhere. You know, if you want to, sneeze, you got to ask your wife, and then she's going to say, bless you. And so this is what the world has also said about marriage. No, I don't want to get married. You can't do nothing. For one, they say most married people don't have sex. They say most married people don't go anywhere no more. They just go to work, come home, eat and go to sleep, and then recycle and do that tomorrow. And then on Friday, you sit around, and on Sunday you go to church, and then you clean up, and then you cook Sunday dinner and get ready for Monday. This is what the lens of the world say about married people. So that's why don't nobody want to get married. But when you are single, it's like it's fun, outgoing. You move when you want to move. You go when you want to go. But that is not true. Because when you love someone, you're going to love to spend time with that person. And when you go, you're going to want to go. I mean, you guys are going to have your separate time, but when you want to, you enjoy being with that person.
Yeah.
You love spending time with that person.
Yeah.
You love hanging out with that person. You love going to, out to eat with that person.
What you laughing at?
I almost like to slip and say it something. When I was saying going out to eat.
Only you. So we were talking about having the ability to communicate effectively. And so our first point was
What
you
is
have
that?
to be open and
Amen.
honest.
37 years strong.
Sharon, I think. I hope I'm saying it right, Sharon.
What's
Happy 37 years of marriage. That's awesome, man. We
Well, it's
love
going
to
to be
hear
38
people.
on the 31st.
We love to hear people.
I said it's
be
going to be
married.
38 years on the 31st.
She said 37 years strong on the 31st.
I know I said it's going to be 38. Oh.
Can you take you back to math class? Okay. What happens when you lose your attraction? Oh wow. Okay. So
That's a
what
good one.
happens?
That's
What
a good
happens when you lose your attraction?
I don't know.
And so I'm
let
gonna
me-
take your question, and maybe you just clarify it for us a little bit, Miss Ballard. Like when you what do you mean when you lose your attraction? When you lose your attraction for your spouse, or when your spouse loses their attractiveness?
Well, I can answer that question. What you do? It's just like if you lose the keys to your car, what do? You go look for it. If you was to lose your child who's 3 years old, are you just gonna say, okay, it's lost? Are you gonna sit there? No, you're gonna look high
And low.
to go find it. And so what you have to do is, if you have lost the attraction, you go find the attraction.
That's good,
So
babe.
now, what does that look like, going to find the attraction? So maybe you need to put some fire behind it. You need to, put some makeup. You need to explore a little bit more. Maybe
Or
he
you need to work out.
Maybe he need to work out.
Or he need to take care of himself a little better.
Because what we have some people who work out for their spouse. Some people go to the gym
Yeah,
for
just
their
for their spouse.
I'm not going to call their name, but they know who they are. And that's how you go find what you have lost.
Yes.
And it can work both ways. It may be something about your spouse. You may want, put some color in your hair. Change your lipstick. Eyeliner. I don't know. But whatever it is, that when you first saw that person, you go look for it.
Yeah, because babe, I think that's so key, that what you said. So it takes away what we typically want to do and just fester in the fact that we're no longer attracted. So we want to just move away from this person now because we're no longer attracted. But we don't want to do, a lot of times we don't want to take the time to do the work. And so like you said, if there was ever a point of time that you were attracted to somebody that you married, there's always the opportunity to get back to that
And
attraction.
I got a good point. We doing some renovation on our house.
Yes.
When we first came to our house, it was so attractive. It
Yes.
was loving. It was everything about it. The dirty carpet, it
Yeah.
didn't matter. We loved it.
Yes.
It was great. But as we stayed in the house for a period of time, stuff started, it wasn't so attractive. You know, the carpet got dirty and
The
it didn't look-
furniture
the
started wearing
got
down a
old
little
and
bit.
it got nasty. And you know what we had to do? We had to pull up the carpet. We had to find that attraction. So we pulled up the carpet and we put some hardwood down. And then we started seeing the attraction of the house once again.
Yeah, we
And
didn't change the house.
We didn't change the house. We just changed some things about the house.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and so that's what
Hey,
you have
that's
to
a good analogy because
I
we
know.
just did that.
Look at her. I changed. I seen some things that I didn't like about her. No, change your hairstyle. She changed the hairstyle. You know, you want long.
No. Let's correct it. You never see anything about me that you're not attracted to.
Oh yeah, you're right. I don't.
Thanks.
It
Just clarify.
I want to change. I want to see something different.
No, but
And
that's
so-
such a great analogy because a
I
lot
know.
of times I think we don't look at it that way. And I think it begins with communicating about the fact that there's an issue there. Because nobody wants to really have to say to their spouse, I'm not attracted to you anymore. And
No.
a lot of people don't really know how to take that. Like a lot of people don't know how to take that. So I think you got to definitely be tactful in the way that you present that type of conversation and the way that you have that kind of conversation, because it's very important to be attracted, because we talk about this all the time. We talked about this last week, even on the scope about sex and affection.
Yeah.
Like the whole point of affair proofing your marriage is to be able to be attracted to who you marry. And so the moment that it begins to be an attraction issue, you got to start to address it and find your way back to the attraction so that you can keep your eyes focused on your spouse
Yes.
and not be tempted to step out. So attraction is very important. And if that's an issue, definitely I think it begins still with communication. You sit down, you have that conversation, and you say, hey, babe, can I talk to you about something open and honest? Is there,
Yeah.
and you may want to start off, is there anything about me I could change to be more appealing to you? That's how I would start it out. Like, babe, I know we've been together for a while, you know, and I just want to make sure I'm not letting myself go. I'm not, you know, getting regular, that you still find me attractive. Is there anything about me you would like me to change? And then that sparks the conversation, and then you can switch it. Well, babe, you know, and I love being married to you, and I just love when you used to look like da-da-da-da-da, or whatever you was attracted to, so you can bring that back full circle.
Okay, let me answer this question right here. My husband and I are newlywed. What is some key advice for newlyweds? Okay, I got good advice for you guys. I'll let you. You want to answer first?
No, go ahead.
I'm gonna say, for the newlyweds, one thing I would advise for you the guys to do is have a lot of sex, date each other, and communicate at all times.
You almost made me spit my water out.
What?
You almost made me spit my water out.
This is for the newlyweds.
No, regular married people need to have sex all the time too.
Yes, I'm answering a question.
You are. Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, where all this come from? It's so much, I mean, shade coming from everywhere. But no, she asked the question, what is some advice we can give her for a newlywed?
Yeah.
One of the three things, have a lot of sex, communicate, and what was the other one I just said? Have more sex.
No,
I mean-
honestly, what Ronna said is true. You definitely got to keep the passion going between you two. I would say put God at the foundation
Okay,
of your
hold
marriage.
on. First of all, we're not going to go the Christian walk. We know we're going to keep.
No. People don't know that because a lot of people that we coach and we have mentored,
Okay.
they do not have God at the foundation of their
I'm
marriage.
sorry for assuming.
I'm gonna say put God at the foundation of your
Always
marriage,
put
and I
God
don't mean put God to the fact that you acknowledge God. That yeah, we both believers and we go to church occasionally. I'm not talking about that. Put God, that kind of put God. I'm talking about some real. We pray together. We study the Word together. We truly are growing individually and together in our marriage. Because if you do that, anything that you deal with in your marriage, you can go back to the covering that you have.
Yeah.
And God will always correct you. He will always correct your spouse. And so you don't have to get into this tug of war about who's right. Because if God can override both of you guys, he will always keep you on the right path. So definitely keep God at the foundation of your marriage, insert it into your marriage and incorporate it in your marriage. Then, like Ronald said, date each other. I mean, enjoy each other. Like the whole point of being newlyweds is to really begin to explore each other. Ensure that you guys are communicating effectively, that you're working on building communication, that you're having conversations with each other daily. Like a lot of people don't even talk to each other for 4 hours throughout the week. There are a lot of, they don't even have conversations. Conversate daily. Find out about each other and make that something that you do continuously. Like we said earlier in the scope, we have check-ins every month just to see where we are, what's going good, what we need to improve on, how the month has been for both of us, anything going on with the kids, work, career, business, anything under the sun. We just talk as friends and we have an open conversation. Because if you do not do that, 5 years from now, you won't know who you're married to because you no longer know them. People grow and change over time.
Yeah, and you got to be willing to grow and change
You
with
got
them.
to.
Or you're going to get left behind.
That's it. And so in order for you to be able to grow with them, you got to know what they're growing in. What areas are they growing in? What they like now that they didn't like 5 years ago. What they don't like now that they did like 5 years ago. So you got to steadily communicate with each other and be able to engage each other in a way that you explore and know each other. Get you a good marriage circle. We talk about it all the time.
Yes.
Get you some people around you who believe in marriage, that are happily married, that can encourage you in times when marriage gets tough for you and your spouse, that you trust. Find you somebody that you trust to guide you in your marriage, because that will be so important as you go through this marriage journey. And definitely just pray together. I mean, I think those are, if you do those basic things, that you can begin to establish a solid, concrete marriage.
I was trying to read another question.
Oh, what you got? Somebody said Shelly said I have a honeymoon often. Yes, Shelly. Pays attention to me. I'm no longer attracted to your mate, you need to keep it up. Yeah, absolutely, Dupree. The same way you got your mate, you got to keep it up.
You got to keep it up.
It can be a makeover in the emotional realm as well. People need to spend more time with each other. Yeah, absolutely, Jasmine. Make sure I miss nothing. So I'm gonna go back to the top.
What about the problem is how to deal with a hand full of pressure then. What do you do if your husband don't want to talk? Find a different way of communicating.
Well, yeah.
Or now my question, I have to flip the question around and send it back to you. How are you communicating with your husband? Are you yelling? Are you screaming? Are you sitting down talking peacefully? Are you being tactful when you communicate with your husband? Like, how are you communicating with your husband? Because that could have an effect on him shutting down. Because a lot of times, women are emotional. So if you come at us emotional, that can cause us to shut down. Because I'm not going to go and have an emotional fight with you during a communication. I'll have a communication battle with you while you are emotional. Because what happens is, if you're feeling a certain type of way and you're trying to get something across to your husband, you could be crying when you're talking to him. Why did you do this to me? You're like, man, I don't want to talk to you when you're that way. And so typically a man would just shut down. Because first of all, I don't want to see you cry. And I don't want to go through the whole emotional part of dealing with you crying and screaming at me when we are talking. So now I had to push the question back to you. How do you communicate? What is your way of communicating when you are communicating to your husband?
And I will also say, Shamika, one thing that I would do first, I would transform my mindset about it. Because if I was married to a spouse that did not want to communicate, did not want to talk, I would be very frustrated. I am a talker. And naturally, women are talkers. We want to engage our husbands. We want to have interactions with them. We want to conversate. That's a piece of affection. That's a piece of emotion that helps tie us to our spouse. And so first, I think you got to change your mindset around it. You got to prepare your mind to be able to work through it. And so you got to first prepare your mind to say, hey, okay, my husband has a communication issue. He may not be where I am, on the level I am to communicate. So I got to prepare myself now to assist him in communicating. You got to be committed to it. You got to be committed to working through his communication issue, good or bad. And so I would not tear him down about it. I would not use it against him. I would try to engage him on all aspects. And I think anything that you do continuously, sooner or later, it's going to break down. Yeah. Definitely seek God about giving you what you need to say, what you need to do, the right time you need to communicate with him. And just pay attention to how he responds at different times. Try different times, different ways. Try writing things out. Ask him, would he rather write you something? But you got to continuously try to engage him. Because the moment you cut off the engagement of communication, because he doesn't know how to do it. So the moment you stop out of your frustration, it's going to slowly kill the marriage because the communication stops. And so as long as you got one person in a marriage fighting to communicate and communicating with God, you will be able to break that communication barrier. It's not going to happen overnight, but I guarantee you over time, you will be able to break that barrier. But you got to be consistent. You got to be committed to it, and you got to stay working at it because it's not just going to change overnight.
Yeah, consistency is going to be the key.
Yeah.
I think you just really just answered the next question.
Yeah.
You know,
what if your spouse is checked out, no commission all day? How do you reach out to them? I think just have that first. Be honest. Be honest about how that makes you feel. Be honest about that it's a problem in your relationship. Don't bring it out in an argument. Just bring it out as friends talking. Say, hey, babe, can we sit down and have a conversation? And a lot of times it's really how we package things, guys. It's really the way we present things. Because in that situation, I would sit down with my husband, and it would take a lot. Because, see, these things we're saying you got to do, you first got to humble yourself. Because nobody wants to go and humble themselves for somebody who already been treating them ill, and you don't want to have a conversation with me. Now I got to come and almost beg you to have a conversation with me. Who wants to do that? But that's what it takes. And that's what being Christ-like is all about. And so we come and we humble ourselves. Say, okay, let me get out my feelings. He hasn't been talking to me all day. It's been going on for about 3 months. We're not really talking. Let me go to him. And I say, look, babe, I love you. I married you how many other years ago? If it was 2 weeks ago, because I felt like you were the one. And I enjoy talking to you. I really thrive off of your conversation. It feeds my soul. You got to start. This is the thing, guys. We got to start blowing our spouses up, really building them up to make them feel like their communication is so important in our lives that we need it, because it is. But a lot of times we don't want to do that. We want to be like, okay, I mean, you ain't talking to me, I ain't talking to you. I don't need it. And we're sitting there thirsting for it and dying of thirst to communicate with our spouse, but we don't want to say it. And so we got to be able to say, hey, look, dude, I need you to talk to me. We got to be able to talk because I need it. I need it from you. Just like you need sex from me, I need to be able to talk to you. I don't want to have a conversation with other men out here. I want to talk to you. And so I need this from you. This is something I desire. And when you package stuff a certain way, you can typically get men or even women to respond differently by your package. That's all it comes down to, your presentation. And so I would say present it in a way that's appealing, present it in a way that's true, honest, and real raw from your heart. Like, if you really desire talking to your husband and communicating with your husband, say that. Say, babe, I need you to talk to me.
Well, most people don't want to humble themselves and say, I need you to talk to me. I love talking to you. Most people are like, okay, you ain't talking. Okay, well, I'm just going to go do me.
Yeah.
And if you need something from your spouse, communicate that I need this from you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I see, Taisha, you said my husband just lost his mother, and sometimes he takes it out on me. I try to understand, but it's hard. Man, my condolences to both of you guys. And I think anytime you have a spouse that has lost a parent or has lost somebody close to them, everybody deals with pain differently.
Yeah, that's true.
And so what he may be, his way of dealing with pain seems now to be lashing it out. And I'm sure his intent is not to lash it out. A lot of times when we're hurt, all of us have heard this saying that hurt people hurt people. And so him trying to process and deal with his hurt is now affecting you in a way that is hurtful. And so again, we go back to point one. Be open and honest about your feelings. And so although you understand that your husband is grieving, you want to sit him down and have a conversation like, hey, babe, first I want to say I'm here for you. If there's anything you need me to do that I can do, I'm here for you. Just let me know. I want to be here for you. I understand this is a difficult time. I want to give you your space if you need it. I want to be here for you if you need it. Whatever you need, I want to be here. But in order for me to be the best wife to you, I need you to understand how when you do X, Y, Z, this makes me feel. So when you lash out at me, it shuts me down to being that support system for you. I understand that you're hurting, but I don't want to take on your hurt because you're hurting. I want us to be able to process the hurt and for you to be able to move from the hurt, but I can't be your punching bag. I can't be the one you dump all your hurt on. You got to just be able to be honest and be like, at the end of the day, I understand we may have moments, but this is not a pass for you to be able to do what you want to do to me because I'm still living and I'm here for you. And so a lot of times I think the fact that you're trying to be understanding is great. I think that you got to get your strength too from God, because anytime you're dealing with somebody who's grieving, they're going to pull from you because
Yeah.
they don't have enough energy right now to stand on their own when people are grieving. So if you ever lost somebody or been in that process, it's a tough process. And people grieve very differently. And so if for him, he's going through this hurt, this pain, he's pulling everything from you, which is weakening you. And so first you got to go get strengthened from somewhere else. And the only place you're going to be able to get strengthened is from God. And so when God gives you that grace, that strength, that peace, you'll be able to give it to your husband through that process. So I would say that's the first place you get to, and give him a little grace. It's a season. I don't know how long ago, it looked like you said he just lost his mom. So anytime somebody says just to me, that's within a couple of months at the max.
So
I mean, that's
fresh.
recent. Yeah. And depending on how old he is, moms are very impactful. Depending on the relationship they had, it's so much that he could be processing and going through. And I'm sure it's just a season, but you want to be able to still deal with it so that it doesn't get to a place that you resent him. Like we said, you don't want to get passive to the point that you resent him. You want to give him some grace, but you got to talk about it. You got to talk about how it's making you feel. For information from him, are you accusing him of something? There's a reason that man didn't want to
Oh,
talk.
she said it was this month.
Oh, yeah. So that's very fresh. That's very fresh, I think. Thanks, Sharon. And let me see if you get anything else. You gotta talk to him like the Boyz II Men song, End of the Road. Yeah, Jasmine, you gotta talk to them like at the that is such a good analogy. Tell me I'm here for you. All those times of night when you just hurt me and ran off with that other fella. I knew about it.
I just didn't
I
care.
just didn't care. Now I care. Like I'm gonna be like, I care. Like I care. No, but you gotta be able to talk through things, because at the root of it, that's all it comes down to. Anything that you face and go through in a marriage, man, you can deal with if you got some good communication. So we were talking about having an open and honest conversation, being able to listen for understanding, having the ability to control your emotions, and you have to be willing to understand someone else's viewpoint even when you don't agree. A lot of times communication shuts down because we don't want to see our spouse's viewpoint. We don't want, even if we don't agree with it, we don't want to understand it. Like, so if you see something differently than I see it, because I feel like I'm right the way I see it, I don't really want to hear about how you see it.
Yeah.
That's a problem in a marriage. We got to be able to agree to disagree and still reach an understanding, because your perspective is your perspective, and I can't take that away from you, and I can't force my perspective down your throat. And so I got to understand how to see your viewpoint in a way that it helps us build our marriage, not in a way that it tears you down or tears me down. So many times we want our viewpoint to be right. Absolute.
Yes,
we
yes,
want
we
it
do.
to be God's viewpoint. We like to
Especially
go
in an argument.
Yes.
Because it's all about winning in an argument.
Absolutely.
So my way is right,
Yeah. Yeah.
and your way is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I win.
Yeah.
And so, but we're both on the same team. So how can I win and you not win?
Yeah.
So that's what we had to process. That's what we had to get in our mind. We're both on the same team. If I win, you win. If you lose, I lose as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Candace said, can you teach understanding, or is it a choice kind of thing? I mean, I think this is me. True understanding, if you're communicating and you're trying to get true understanding or see that your spouse has truly understood what you have communicated, I think that they will be able to articulate to you what you've communicated, even if they don't agree with it. So they'll be able to articulate what you communicated, how it made you feel, how it impacts your marriage, even if they don't agree with it. I think that's somebody understanding what you said. And a lot of people, they don't want to understand.
I was just about to say that. They understand.
Yeah, they understand fully, because
But they
understanding
reject
a
it.
lot of time make you have to be accountable
And-
for how I made you feel.
Yes.
And what I did. And so a lot of people choose not to understand. But if you're communicating effectively, understanding is just saying, hey, yeah, I understand your viewpoint. I get how it affected our marriage. I get how this caused this to happen. And while we're here at this point, how can we move forward? That's all understanding is. But you got to be able to want to understand first. And you got to have the desire to want to understand, the desire to want to change for that understanding to even take place.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of people understand it. They don't want to take the ownership, though.
Yeah. I mean, when I think about understanding, I think it's just like, it's like Christ. It's in you. Mm-hmm. Now, whether what you decide to do with it is going to be the outcome of how you interpret what the person is saying.
Yeah.
So it's there, but it's up to you to bring it out.
Yeah. Also, right before his mom died, we had just got back together from a year's separation. Oh, yeah. Taisha, so in that perspective, you guys have a lot going on. And so you're
It's
just
a lot of
now.
emotion,
Yeah, it's a lot of
raging
emotion.
and resurfacing.
Yeah.
And It's a lot going on.
Yeah, and so I think when you're dealing with all of that coming back into that situation, you got to put things into perspective. And so although you guys are probably now trying to rebuild coming back from a separation, now you have this blow to the marriage of someone losing their parent. And so it brings a flood of emotions in a place that is already you trying to build on a little unstable. So it's going to take a little working on to get through that period.
Yeah, it's almost like Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah.
It's like a whole lot of stuff going on, but through the mix of it all, you will overcome it.
Yeah. And you got to be tactful in how you say things, guys. The worst thing I hate to hear people say is, I just tell it like it is. What is that? You just rude for no reason? Like, so if you just rude, you just rude. That's telling it like it is. And that's not really being Christ-like. When you hear people say stuff like that, those are people that aren't at the point of growth. They aren't at the point of really growing. You got to be tactful in how you say things. You can't just tell it like it is. Like, you can't just do that. That's not real. Yeah. Like, and people who do that are selfish, rude people. You cannot just tell it like it is. Yeah. And the Bible talks about it too. It says, do not let unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs. I'm going to read that again to you because it's in the Bible. So it says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs. And so if we are careful in how we say things and we are paying attention to what we say, we're not just going to tell it like it is. We're going to say what needs to be said, but we're going to say it tactfully. Yes. Because at the end of the day, we want what we say to be helpful to others
and not destroy.
And to build. Yeah, we don't want to destroy it. We want to build. We want to build our marriage. We don't want to destroy our marriage. So we're not just going to say any and everything because we can. That's not somebody that's growing as an individual or that's growing in their marriage. You can't just say what you want to say. Because a lot of time that leads to other stuff. Like, that leads to violence for a lot of people. You can't just say what you want to say. You really can't. I mean, because we think when we get married, we can do what we want to do. And that's not right. And that's not what God intends to happen in a marriage, that now you can just become reckless because I'm your wife, or you can become reckless because I'm your husband. No, you got to still guard your mouth. You got to still watch what you say. You still got to be tactful in what you say. And honestly, in order to get someone to receive your words that you want them to receive, wrap it in love, man. Anytime you wrap words in love, people will receive it. Nobody truly doesn't want to receive love. Like, nobody has a shield on saying, hey, block me from love. I don't want that. No, people don't typically do that. You know, they may experience it in something that they never had, but you don't see people walking around with an umbrella shielding them from love. No, you don't. So if you wrap your words in love and be honest about it, people will receive what you are saying. And I said, yeah, it can become abusive real quick. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because nobody, like you said, nobody wants to be talked to any kind of way or treated any kind of way. Next point, you have to back your words with your actions, guys.
Back your words with your actions. Say what you mean. Not say what you mean. No, everybody go off on me.
I wasn't finna say that. I was waiting for you to say what you were going to say. You got to back your words with your action. If you say
that you love someone,
you got to show it.
You got to show it. Because love is an action word. That's just like when you tell somebody you're going to pray for them. Are you really going to pray for them? Or are you just saying it just for comfort?
Yeah. Yeah, you got, and honestly, if we're communicating effectively, if we have a problem in our marriage or our relationship, and I have communicated that to you, your actions should come in line with trying to resolve or change the behavior that I said I had a problem with.
Yeah.
And so if I say, hey, babe, you know, I got a problem with us not spending enough time together. You always out, you always hanging out, you always staying out late. I feel like we don't spend any time together. If we have communicated about that issue effectively, your actions will line up with trying to resolve the problem. So what typically would happen is you'll start spending more time with me. We'll start going out. You'll start coming home on time. You will change the behavior. A lot of people think they communicate and they don't communicate. You talk. But communication, true communication is you got to have some actions behind your words. If you don't have no actions behind your words, you're not communicating. You talking.
And ain't saying nothing.
That's it. You talking. And there's nothing wrong with talking, but talking doesn't bring about change. In order, when you communicate truly, effectively, it brings about change in your behavior. If you communicate to your wife, hey, I need you to cook a little bit more. And you see her cooking a little bit more. That's effective communication.
Yeah.
If you communicate to your spouse, you need more sex, and you see them kick it up in that area, that's effective communication. Like, at the end of it, it's going to require you to take some action steps. It's going to require you to change your behavior. If you're communicating about something and you don't see a behavior change, then it hasn't been effectively communicated about. You guys just talked about it. You conversed about it, but there's been no true communication about it. So you want to make sure that you see a change at the end of it all. And it may be a process. You may see baby steps, but you see them working towards trying to change the very thing that you guys were discussing. You got to be able to talk. There's nothing worse for a marriage than to be married to somebody you can't talk to.
Oh, yeah.
Because we got to talk.
They're like being on marital support.
Yeah, it is. It is. And typically what you find is, and when people begin to cheat, especially for women, when we're not getting that conversation from our spouses, you begin to conversate with somebody else.
Yeah.
Because that need, like we said last week, that need for conversation doesn't go away. The resource just is stopped. So you have cut off the resource to communicate with me. And now, the desire, the need is still there. So you begin to talk to somebody else. If you look at the word of God, it says that man should not be alone. It wasn't good for Adam to be alone. It wasn't good for him not to have somebody that he could communicate with, somebody that he could talk to, somebody that he could share what he was going through with. And that's why you got Eve. And so at the end of it, if you're married, there's no way for you to be happy and healthy in your marriage if you cannot communicate, if you're not able to talk to your spouse. And so it's very important to be able to do that. Hey, Naj and Wallace, I just saw you guys were
I see everybody in the R&B mood. We, had Boys to Men. Let's talk about sex, baby. I see we in the whole that we playing the red. I typically don't get to pick out what I want to wear.
Why you making like I treat you like you too?
No.
I just got great style.
Like
I got great style. You love me to dress you. Correct it. You wear what you want to wear.
No, I love you.
Yes, absolutely. And so, guys, we appreciate you guys jumping on with us on tonight.
And going through the storm with us, man. It was straight lightning.
Yeah.
Our blinds and stuff was moving, lights going in and out. And you guys hung in with us through the storm.
Yeah. And so if you got any questions before we jump off, guys, you can drop your questions in the comment. Again, we are having the Think It Strong conference in Atlanta in August. We are locking down the official date as soon as we get the facility that we want. And so as soon as we get the facility, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we'll be able to release it up for you guys to sign up for the MBG conference this year. And you'll be able to see what date that is. It's the Think It Strong conference as we're working on our second book called Think It Strong, guys. And so we hope that this conference will be enlightening for you guys. We expect it to be off the chain. We have some awesome speakers alongside of us at this conference. We have Dr. Cook coming back again, who was awesome. If you came to the last one, he was on fire. And so we have him again at the conference, and some more people. So it's going to be great. We hope that you can be there so we can help transform our minds in order to transform our marriages. I see a question came through, so let me see. Can communication change during marriage? Like, I am dating now, but I don't want to marry someone who is not effective in communication. Absolutely, communication can change in marriage, Jasmine, and I think you should expect it to change. You should expect that it may get better. You should expect that it may get worse. But I think at the end of it, if you have the commitment to work through the communication issue, no matter what it is, that you will be successful in it. Now, if you're communicating effectively now, dating, then I would say you have a pretty good chance of being able to keep that up even when life happens in marriage. But if you're struggling right now in communicating, then you're going to have a bigger issue when you get married, because then you're in this space together all the time that's going to require you to see and be around each other a lot more. And you're going to have to and supposed to communicate a lot more. And so if you're seeing now there's an issue, I would say definitely put a pause button on moving forward with marriage, but continue to date and see if you can develop in that area of communication and let that be your target area. But if you guys are doing it well right now, I'll say continue to build on it. Continue to have those real conversations with each other, those honest conversations with each other. Find out every and anything that you can about this person before you say I do. Find out about their history of communication, their family's history of communication. Pay attention to the way he communicates with his family when you go around them. Because even though they tell you one thing, thing, it's great to see somebody in action, to see them communicating with others. And so pay attention to the way he communicates with others.
And also pay attention to the credit score.
Yeah. What?
And the credit score.
Oh, I thought she was talking about communicating.
No, and communication going into, she don't want to date nobody with bad communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you
absolutely.
definitely don't want to date nobody with bad credit.
Yeah, I mean, credit is something you can change. They can have all these other qualities, and you can change credit.
Yeah, you could be in love and broke. Yeah, that was basically what she's telling you.
I cut me off quit when the red flag show. Yeah, Jasmine, that's the thing, and that's the luxury that being single allots people, is that you get to really before you get married, evaluate if this is somebody that you can grow with and move with. And one thing I will say, Jasmine, is that you want to make sure this is somebody that knows God and has their own relationship with God. Because one thing that marriage will always require you to do is to seek God, because you will face some times in marriage that you cannot lean on your own strength at all to continue the marriage, to even love your spouse. You can go through seasons in your marriage where you almost detest looking at the person you with, and by the grace of God, you guys can come out of that stronger than you went into it. And so I would say make sure that they have their own relationship with God, you have your own relationship with God, and you guys can incorporate that together and build a relationship together with God to be able to move forward. So I say, if you got those things and you paying attention to all the other red flags, but at the same time, nobody's gonna be perfect. Like, so it's gonna be some things we talk about it all the time. It's gonna be some things you're gonna have to carry into the marriage and work on.
Yeah, you're not gonna find Mr. Right. You're gonna find Mr. Almost Right.
Yeah. And you're gonna have to take that almost piece and tweak that. And so we all come into the marriage with baggage, like we talked about in our book and we talk about all the time. You guys got to make the determination on what's gonna stay before you get married, and what you're going to work on in the marriage. Because there are some things that you can take into the marriage, you can work out on the marriage journey. But there are some things that if you take on the marriage journey, it can kill your marriage. And so you want to resolve that before you ever get married, or that may not be the person to marry. And so I will also give you that advice if you're dating, to make sure that they may not be perfect, but if it's things that you honestly can work out with God and with yourself and your spouse and your marriage, then work it out. They're not going to be perfect, but if they come to the table willing to grow, and you see the growth in them, and as you're dating them, you see them growing, then that's a great sign for a great spouse. Because if you marry somebody that does not feel like they have a need to grow, that they don't have a desire to even seek growth, that's not somebody you're going to be able to progress well with in marriage, because marriage requires all of us to grow daily. You got to grow daily. Like, it's going to require you to grow daily in some area in order to continue to have a successful marriage. And so that would be my advice on you, so that when he finds you, you'll be ready. You shouldn't be searching for him. Absolutely. While I don't think she said she was searching. I think she was dating somebody, and so she was just evaluating him, I guess, as they're dating. Because one thing is great, you can work on you and he can come find you, but a fool can find a good thing too. And so you want to make sure that this isn't a fool finding you, but this is a husband potential finding you, because he doesn't become a husband just when you get married. You don't become a wife when you get married. You got to already be that. You got to have those things already within you to be able to be that. And so definitely you want to evaluate the guy, but you shouldn't be out there just seeking him, or whatever. You should just, over time, put yourself in position that you can meet somebody if you're single. But absolutely.
You want a husband, not a whoremonger.
Absolutely. That is very true. Growth. Yes, absolutely. Within the marriage, growth. You got to grow within the marriage. I think that's if I didn't learn nothing else over these almost 11 years of marriage and just about 17 being with Ronald, it's growth, man. Is that you got to be willing to be moldable, changeable, shapeable by God in order to have a successful marriage. And growth in marriage is a beautiful thing. Like, I honestly would not want to be the person I was when we got married in our 20s that I am now in my mid 30s. Like, I absolutely would not want to be that person.
It wouldn't have been no married by God. If she was that person, no. Because I didn't want to be that person I was either.
Yeah, you should start it with that. Negroes, I tell you.
I didn't want to grow within the marriage, not for things to say the same. Yep.
Where you see that at? Why I can't see any of the stuff that's rolling through? Maybe I should refresh. Allowing room to grow in your marriage, enough for things to say. Absolutely. Can't submit to someone who's not submitted to God. Won't be able to lead properly. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think that's a big problem. That's a big problem, Irene. A lot of people do submit to people that aren't submitted to God, or they don't submit to them because they're not submitted to God, but you married them. And so just because at that time you married them does not take away your responsibility to submit. Now you just have to submit to God as well and ensure and pray that this person will line up with the way God is going, and you don't let them lead you to a place that's going to have you sin against God. But a lot of times we get married to people that aren't submitted to anybody, and anytime you can't submit as a husband to God, there's no way you're going to be able to lead that family effectively, because we'll all make decisions based upon our feelings and our circumstances. If we don't seek God for the right decision to make, we'll lead our families down the wrong path a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so typically, like I tell men all the time, a woman that sees a man that is able to submit to God, he will never have an issue with his wife submitting to him.
That's true.
Never. A guy who openly and honestly submits to God's leadership in his marriage will never have a wife that's not willing to do that. It's just going to be hard. I mean, unless she just don't want to be married. It's just going to be a hard thing to do, because typically that's what women look for. They look for men that are submitting, and when you're submitting and you can actually back up your decisions as head with the word of God, I'm going to fight God on your decisions. Like, it's no way to do that. But I can fight you on your decisions if they're coming from a place of selfishness just for you. But if you are able to back up, your decisions with God, then, I'm not going to, I can't fight that battle, because God's going to win. So I think that's at the root of it. That's what it comes down to. So, but thank you guys for tuning in with us. We will catch you next Monday for MBG Monday, and we will soon be releasing the conference information for you guys to sign up for the MBG conference this year. Think It Strong is the title. Transforming your marriage or relationship with the power of your thoughts. That's what we're going to be talking about. So we love you guys. We hope that you guys have a great rest of your week, and that you can actually build from this place, that you work on whatever communication issues you may be facing in your marriage, that you take the time to be honest and open, control your emotions, listen with understanding to your spouse, and give them a little grace, and so if they're not where you are, if you're not where they are, and being able to communicate, give them a little grace so you guys can work through it, because you can get through it. You can. It's going to take a little work, but you can get through it, guys. We love you guys. Y'all have a blessed night. Good night.